Have you ever absent-mindedly tossed a coin into a wishing well, hoping for a stroke of luck or maybe even genius? Well, if that's the case, then you might be channeling the spirit of Isaac Newton, the legendary scientific mind behind gravity, calculus, and a whole bunch of other brain-bending concepts. But here's the thing most people don't know: Isaac Newton was also super into alchemy. Yes, the same alchemy associated with turning lead into gold and brewing magical potions. While Newton's dabblings in alchemy might seem a bit wacky compared to his groundbreaking scientific achievements, it actually tells us a surprising amount about the man himself. So, here's the question that popped into my head: if Isaac Newton was obsessed with alchemy, a practice heavily reliant on precious metals, how many coins do you think he actually had? Now, this might seem like a random question, but hear me out. Alchemists used all sorts of metals in their experiments, and coins were a convenient source of those metals. Silver and gold were especially prized, but even copper coins could be useful depending on the alchemist's goal. Of course, we can't know for sure exactly how much alchemy impacted Newton's coin collection, or even if he had one at all. But by digging into his life and the practices of alchemists during his time, we can make some educated guesses. Diving into Newton's world. Isaac Newton lived from 1643 to 1727, a period known as the early modern era. Alchemy was still a widely practiced art during this time, even though science was starting to take center stage. Many prominent figures, including doctors and astronomers, dabbled in alchemy, believing it held the key to unlocking the secrets of the universe. Newton himself spent a significant amount of time studying alchemy. In fact, some historians believe he may have been even more engrossed in alchemy than his scientific pursuits. He filled notebooks with cryptic symbols and detailed experiments, all focused on transforming metals and discovering the elusive philosopher's stone, a mythical substance believed to grant immortality and the ability to turn any metal into gold. Now, these alchemical experiments weren't exactly cheap. Ingredients were expensive, and some of the processes required specific tools and equipment. It's likely that Newton, a brilliant but not exactly wealthy man, used some of his own money to fund his alchemical endeavors. So, how many coins did he have? Here's where things get interesting. We can't definitively say how much money Newton had, or how much he spent on alchemy. However, we do know that he wasn't exactly rolling in dough. For most of his life, he relied on income from a fellowship at Trinity College, Cambridge. While this provided him with a decent living, it wasn't exactly a king's ransom. On the other hand, Newton did eventually become warden and then master of the Royal Mint, a prestigious position that oversaw the production of coins in England. This position likely gave him access to a significant amount of coinage, though it's doubtful he could have just pocketed them all. Alchemical expenses. Now, let's look at the other side of the coin, pun intended. What kinds of expenses might Newton have incurred while practicing alchemy? Ingredients. Alchemy relied on a wide variety of ingredients, some common and some quite rare. These could include things like sulfur, mercury, salt, exotic plants, and even precious gems. Obtaining these materials could have been a significant drain on Newton's finances. Equipment. Alchemical experiments often required specialized tools and equipment, like crucibles, alembics, and furnaces. Building and maintaining this equipment would have cost Newton additional money. Assistants. Some alchemists employed assistants to help them with their experiments. While there's no evidence Newton had a dedicated alchemy assistant, it's not entirely out of the question. If he did, that would have added to his overall costs. Putting the pieces together. So, based on what we know about Newton's life and the practices of alchemy, it's safe to say that he probably didn't have a Scrooge McDuck-level vault overflowing with coins. He likely had enough to live comfortably, but not enough to fund extravagant alchemical experiments. Therefore, the most likely scenario is that Newton used a portion of his own coins to buy some alchemy supplies, but probably relied on readily available materials and borrowed or bartered for others. He might have even used his position at the Royal Mint to acquire some specific metals needed for his experiments.